pleasure to be here with Rabbi Daniel Greyber, who is a rabbi in Durham, North Carolina, and is the author of this book, Faith Unravels, A Rabbi's Struggle with Grief and God. Thanks for taking time to talk.
Thanks for having me.
So I know you're writing a book now about prayer. Can you tell us about that?
I am. I have a working title called Prayer Stories, and it originates out of my own experience. When I was growing up, I was in a conservative synagogue, and I knew the melodies and things like that, but I really didn't have an experience of prayer. Yeah. And when I went to Israel, I was studying at the Woodges Institute in Arad. There was a Scottish rabbi named Aubrey Isaacs, and I remember seeing him on a Friday night, sort of swaying and with his eyes closed and moving very intensely. And his daughter came up to him while he was praying, and I sort of figured out that he was praying. And his daughter came up to him and said, "Abba, Abba," and pulled on his talit. And he didn't stop and talk to her, but he very gently patted her head, and then she ran back across the room and said to her sister, "Oh, Abba can't talk right now. He's davening." And I had never seen that before. It was different. And I realized, I learned a lot about prayer in that moment. And the insight that I really took out of that years later was that learning how to pray was learning an activity. It was learning an experience. And to do that, you're best not sort of explaining the prayers to everybody, but you're best giving people stories. Yeah. And so what I want to do is to try to tell my own stories, but also maybe open up other people's stories, so that people understand, what's going on in someone's head when they see that person swaying and, seem to be doing this thing called prayer.
It's funny. I was once interviewing for a shul in New York, and they asked me the question in the interview: if someone came over to you and wanted to talk to you while you were in prayer, would you engage them or remain in prayer? And I came to find out that what answer they wanted, because their previous rabbi would not engage them, and they were all offended. So they had a specific answer they wanted at this shul. So what types of? So are you looking to solicit stories from others? And if so, what are you looking for?
So I am looking. I would love to have. Look, I have my own stories, and I think that they're interesting and compelling. But the truth is that I know that my experiences of prayer are not everybody's experiences of prayer. And I'm very interested to hear. I think other people would find it interesting to know, what is that person thinking about? What is it like to go back and forth between being distracted and being focused? How does prayer change when you're praying, like when you go to Israel and you see the people pull over the side of the road on Highway 1, right? I was saying to you at dinner, what does somebody think about when they're in a position of great leadership? What are their prayers about? So I would love to, the truth is that if people out there have their stories, I'd love to hear from them. Can't guarantee that they'll be in, but I would love to gather that, because I think it can be a resource for people who haven't grown up praying, and it's something they want to try.
Yeah. I know a lot of people who are seeking spirituality, but the word prayer is so scary, so taboo.
Well, and one of the reasons, by the way, is, I think, look, I love Judaism. Right. I'm a rabbi. Right. I love Judaism, don't get me wrong. Yeah. And I love the Siddur. But the Siddur is actually a big impediment. Right. If you translate the words of the Siddur, sometimes it's very helpful, sometimes it's not. Yeah. Sometimes it's actually makes problems worse. And I think that that word prayer is very challenging for people, and humanizing it and helping people to understand. One of my own prayer stories was about becoming frustrated and throwing my Siddur across the room. Mm-hmm. And then I went and picked it up and kissed it, because I felt badly about it. Right. But it's okay, but that was part of the process. Right. And I think it's okay for people to know, and important for people to know that wow, there's these moments of frustration, and there are these moments of incredible joy, and there's these moments of insight, and all that is part of the package. I like
to emphasize for people sometimes that you can have a whole range of theological beliefs and still find prayer meaningful. That some people think, I don't believe in this man in the sky who's going to answer my prayers. And I say that a big part of rational Judaism is that prayer is something that we're doing to ourselves, right? In a sense that when we're asking God to fix X, Y, or Z, we're reminding ourselves it's part of our job to help fix X, Y, Z to some degree. So I wonder for you, why is prayer so important? I mean, you could write on hundreds of different Jewish issues. Why prayer?
I think in my own Jewish experience, look, it is such a prime. First of all, I didn't sort of grow up. I was a competitive swimmer. I was not in shul every Shabbos, right. And so this was a process of learning and taking on for me. And prayer is such an important part of Jewish life, especially in the United States. When you go to synagogue, and I want to try to help that experience be less painful. Mm-hmm. There was somebody who once said that the challenge of Judaism is that we used to be at home in our Judaism and strangers to the rest of the world, mm-hmm. and now we're at home in America and we're strangers to our Judaism, and I don't want that. Right. I want to help people to feel a little bit more at home. In the Jewish tradition.
Yeah, I also think that when prayer works on a daily basis or a Shabbat experience, that it carries over into the week. Meaning, I think the best or one of the most powerful forms of Jewish spirituality is the bracha. Right, you're in the workplace, right, and there's times to make blessings throughout the day, as a way to bring God closer, as a way to reconnect your values, and so that's very powerful what you're saying. And so I wonder, when it comes to, we're talking about adults mostly. How is this different when we talk about kids? I know you were a camp director for many years, and you also have 3 children of your own. So is it easier or more difficult in your experience for children to connect, and how do you kind of educate this differently?
I find it to be easier. I find it to be much easier for children to connect to this. Yeah. I think that there's a part of us that sort of has that natural wonder. Yeah. I look like this. I just got back from the Grand Canyon. I was hiking in the Grand Canyon for a week, and those moments of awe and wonder are things that kids feel naturally, and then sort of gets worked out of us. Right. And as adults, I think we forget about that muscle, and so I think that that helping adults to remember that, and also helping to bridge that gap to understand that the Jewish tradition is actually speaking that language, even though if you look at the direct translation of the words of the Siddur, it may not seem to be. Right. And I think brachot, blessings, are a very accessible piece of that. Yeah. Where but even the saying of a blessing. Right. One of the things that I did this week, just as an example, with blessings is, I tried to focus very much on what do I mean when I say the blessing formula, right? So there's the blessing formula. We can all say it at 1,000 miles an hour. Baruch atah Hashem, right? What does Baruch mean? Right? Yeah. My own translation that I was using this week is thinking about God as being overwhelming with goodness and light. And being master of the world, Melech HaOlam, and sort of focusing on that and really thinking about it, and then going on to acknowledge the particular pieces of it. But all of this, I think the important thing to know is that all of these things can become rote, right? They're tools. Yeah. They're tools to get us to a certain place. We can take the tools and say, well, I did it and I checked it off and therefore I'm done. The question is, can we stop and can we slow down and can we help ourselves to get to this moment? Yeah,
beautiful, very powerful. So, what's the name of this book, and when is it coming out?
I don't know when it's coming out. It's about 80 or 90 pages on my computer right now. Yes. And if you would like to contribute, I would love to have your voice. The working title is Prayer Stories. Nice. Just because it encapsulates that idea of what are our stories and where are we when we do this.
Yeah, very powerful. Keep up the great work. Thanks.